I was just listening to a podcast about the samurai crab and on stuff to blow your mind, and I just thought before I lost my train of thought, I'd publish it real quick because the thing that they were concluding, it had to do with a idea by Carl Sagan that there was an artificial selection of the samurai crab so as to have this crab increase the characteristics that had a face of a samurai would be sort of punched up, made extreme on the back of the carapace of the crab, the back of the crab, by the fishermen in that zone. And so they were kind of debunking the idea, and Dawkins had debunked it too, even though nobody really wanted to. So the thought that I had come up with as to bolster the idea, because they were also saying, the notion that the faces, existed in crabs prior to even humans being on the planet. If you allow for the argument that they were in the fossil record with these shapes on their back, so that there was some other force that was shaping them. Now, it was interesting that the term they used was pareidolia, which is the neurological consequence, I guess, of being wired to see faces in what amounts to random things, which if anything can actually be random. We don't know, I guess, in that regards. But anyway, you see faces, two dots on a page, you'll come up with a face idea. So the thing that they didn't really emphasize, which could somewhat come to the rescue of this, is that while yes, the humans might select for that, animals probably have a form of pareidolia too. And so seagulls, they were saying that these crabs are too small to be commercially viable, and nobody would actually select them out because you're not going to eat them or whatever. Well, birds are. They would definitely find them edible, and if they have some kind of form of that pareidolia, and they see it, and they see a face, they're gonna shy away from it. I suppose you could set up a food selectivity test for these birds, seagulls of various sorts, that maybe if they saw a face in the back of a crab, they would stop. And it might actually, the size of the face might not have anything to do with how effective it is at scaring the animal away. Seeing a face at all, or seeing that, makes the same startle response, and then that's enough for something to get around it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to add to that, was that the animals that were doing this, maybe they're also they're shaping it by means of being able to see, having facial recognition. It's not part of the neural network criteria that is exclusive to humans, but it's in animals as well. So with that in mind, with the other thing they commented on was had to do with what sort of sensory input is generated by the mind when there is no sensory input. like isolation tanks and things like that. That poses some interesting things in terms of like adiabatic sound, and you know, really how could you get rid of all the inputs, and what sort of things would your mind organize, and if you could get rid of inputs down to some really low levels, how sensitive would you be to even, you know, even, well, this gets kind of ridiculous into the sensitivity to quantum events, but, you know, maybe macroscopic size quantum things, you know, things that are large, just large enough to make a dent into the sensory input, not necessarily going all the way down to like a quantum level, but the more and more you're able to isolate, the more and more sensitive you are to, let's say, the computational nature of the material that you're made of, as opposed to like getting rid of the context of the program that's running on top of it. So, you know, for each higher level of programming that you're able to quiet down, the next level of information you're able to read, you know, and then of course you have to bring that up again and then filter it through. So that it's just something I hadn't thought about with the idea of the isolation chambers. Well, this is a nice aspect of having the ability to go live and record these things, because you can do them, as you can see from my background. I'm just was about traveling, and I was listening to this in the car and just decided to get it down before I lost it, like a note. Anyway, that's enough of this, and we'll see you soon. Subscribe.